Hi, I'm your host, Jürgen Strauss from Innova.buzz, and I'm really excited to welcome to the Innova.buzz podcast today from New York in the USA, Elona Lopari, who's the founder of Elona Lopari Coaching. Elona is dedicated to helping businesses scale their purpose and profit, aligning both to create impactful and successful enterprises. Welcome to the Innova.buzz podcast, Elona. It's a real privilege to have you as my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you have a background as a C-suite regional director and now a leader of a vibrant community of over 30,000 entrepreneurs, which is really impressive. Your journey is really inspiring and impactful. As we dive into our conversation today, I'd love to start with the overarching vision that you have. What's the impact you aim to make in the world through the work you do and the communities you lead?
Yeah, I love that question because everything is vision is very important, especially as you're building a company and you're aligning your purpose with profits. Vision is what pulls you, what wakes you up in the morning, what pulls you through some of the tough days that most entrepreneurs experience. So my vision is to help people align purpose and profit so they can do more good in the world. I really believe that purpose-driven, heart-driven entrepreneurs that have chosen their vocation or their purpose through either their passion or pain that they've had to overcome in their life, and now they're trying to help other people with similar results, are really the people that will add to the world and change the world in a good way, where this place will be a better place for us to all live in and operate within these high levels of awareness and consciousness as leaders.
Hmm. And it's interesting, isn't it, when you have that impact on others that they then have an impact through their purpose and you kind of get the satisfaction of knowing you've multiplied your impact throughout the world.
That's the juice that keeps me going. The fact that I'm able to multiply that, and sometimes we always think big when we talk about vision, but it's it's also very helpful to understand that even if you change one person's life and you created, whether it's small or big impact through all the things that we do, that person is still going to be able to affect someone else. So quality over quantity always, but also ensuring that we lead within our values and things that we care about in the journey as we evolve and grow. I think that's something else that I've learned along the way that's important as well. But yeah, the multiplication of impact is, the contribution piece, because I realized in my career that was missing, which is why I pivoted from corporate to entrepreneurship, that it's important to be in contribution towards others, and that's where we all find fulfillment. And we will overcome challenges easier because, again, we're always in service to somebody else, because as humans we always will do more for others than we usually do for ourselves. So it's kind of how all of that has connected in my experience.
Hmm. Hmm. That's wonderful. Well, one of the things I noticed that you offer on your website is this idea of a fractional key executive, and I'm fascinated by that model. So tell me a little bit more about that service, how it works, and how that model works in your business.
Yeah, it's fractional CO services and HR services for companies within the 1 to 10 million revenue scale. When you get to that level of company, you are always looking to get people on board to help you with the operations, the systems, and the team piece of the growth curve. And that's when an operational COO like myself, or somebody that come in as a fractional HR person, can be onboarded within their teams, and I can support with the different operational gaps that exist, so that the company scales at the next level. So whether it's operational gaps or team gaps, those are usually the two things that will need to be looked at when it comes to scaling the company beyond its owner at the next level. So having that experience and knowing what is out there and what are the needs of my market and who I serve, I offer those services on a fractional basis, where I am partnering with a company and the CEO and I'm able to, again, add value on the profit line, but also in the culture piece.
Mm. Yeah. So bringing together that profit and purpose to drive the business success. I love it. And so the fractional part means you're operating not as a full-time employee, but kind of outside the organization in a little bit, sort of bringing in an outsider's view, if you like, and also on a part-time basis. Is that right?
Right. That's the value of bringing someone like me onto a company because, again, I'm an outsider and usually, just like any good parent, we can fix our own home sometimes because we don't always see the stuff that's inside because we're always in there. So bringing in a fresh perspective, new experience, but also the fact that it's a partnership. There's no full-time commitment to an employee, executive level. Um, it's on a project basis, and then based on the value add, we decide to continue or we decide to not. And that seems to be a more of a viable business model that aligns with what I'm doing as well, so that I can help more companies and add more to my vast experience of
Mm,
companies that are scaling the different causes of the purposes behind what they do, and they still stay very profitable as well, because I think that's another big piece that has to be complementary to that as well. Otherwise, you know, we will have companies that are really, cause oriented and want to do really good in the world, but unless you have the monetary piece, you're not able to survive as a business. So,
mm,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of the two parts of the coin, isn't it? Some people seem to think that the profit piece is so important they forget the culture and their purpose is simply making money. And then on the other side of the coin, the not-for-profits sometimes struggle with um, raising sufficient funds to run their operation because they're so focused on the purpose piece and forget about the running a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And also for-profit companies, because nowadays, I mean, as long as you have an innovative service and you or even product, right, and you're able to solve a problem, you're able to do that within the for-profit piece, just like, obviously also on the nonprofit end. And one of the things that I do is help people align both, right, ensure that your for-profit can be also can also feed the nonprofit cause and mission as well, because lots of people like myself that I attract are very interested in, in doing good in the world and contributing towards other causes that they don't necessarily feel compelled to be able to, work towards those other for-profit model, but they do that under the other model. So everything at
Mm,
the end of the day connects together, and if you're able to connect both, you'll be able to work strategically and also add the most value to both things.
mm, mm. Yeah, that's wonderful. That sort of opens up opportunities, doesn't it? If you get both pieces right, and it opens up other opportunities that perhaps weren't there before. So
Absolutely. They
one
feed
of
off each other.
one of, yeah, they feed off each other. Wonderful. One of the things that I mentioned at the beginning is that you have a community of over 30,000 of entrepreneurs, CEOs, and um, I'm really interested, first of all, how you grew that community, and secondly, what you do to run that community in a way that you keep it engaged and you keep providing value to its members.
Yeah, I've always loved community myself. I always like bringing together people with like not like-mindedness, so to speak, but like value, that we value similar things, and we all trying to, accomplish different things depending on everybody's diverse skills, experience, and backgrounds. Diversity is one of those things that I always valued in even in my corporate career, where I was achieving for top talent. That was my one thing that I was the strongest at, bring in diverse group of people together under the same cause, mission, values, vision. pretty much what really a company does. And I just, do it through community. And yeah, I mean, how do you serve? How do you grow community? By serving, right? By adding value, by first bringing the right people together, you knowing what you stand for as I guess, the community founder. And then the more clear and the more convicted you are, the more you start to align with the right people, or the right people find you and you align with them. Even though, of course, I don't believe in chance, everything is strategic, bringing the right people together.
Mm.
But then the other piece is adding value and always listening to the needs of the people that are there. What is it that they're looking to find to get out of the community? What are their biggest pain points? I'm always listening. What are the results that they're looking to achieve, right? What do they want out of a community? So it's always a partnership between what feels important to me based on my gaps that I've seen, or things that I wish that maybe I had, or what I see are gaps in my market, and also hearing it from the people there, and creating spaces and tools and resources that are valuable to them. So it's a win-win, and there's also longevity in the community growth aspect as well, because I think, just like anything, we all can bring people together, but keeping people together is another challenge.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of, those are some of the my best practices that I've utilized to be able to start and grow my own.
Hmm. And so what are some of the things that you found work really well that people value?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of my audience is entrepreneurs, so they always value collaboration, partnerships, visibility, being able to share their message. So looking at their needs, I've been able to create different things inside the community, such as speaking events that I host, and on podcast, and aligning them or connecting them with other people, or like-minded audiences, or like-minded relationships or partnerships, things that people in the entrepreneurial journey are always looking for. So those are some of the things that I've been able to create inside the community. But also, what's also big for me is learning and growing from each other's experience. So I share obviously my experience, but I think we can always learn from everyone else. And that's why I create those spaces, to be able to ensure that people feel heard and seen, because I really think that that's a human need. It's not even a business need.
Hmm.
And then just operating under human values, of ensuring that we respect everyone, and we're able to collaborate together and find complementary gaps of our experiences, skills, what we've built thus far, leverage that we have built, and kind of understanding how to be able to support one another at every phase and stage. That's kind of how I've been able to keep the right people engaged, but also continue to add to the community and add more value with new people that are joining, and also new resources that I'm always adding to continue to add value.
Mm, Yeah, so key message, continue to add value, but I love the idea of providing the introductions and providing a stage where people can showcase their talents, speak, and as you pointed out, we all learn from that, don't we? So even running that community, I imagine you're learning all the time.
Yeah, it's in a selfish way. I'm meeting my own needs of growth and learning and development. But just like anything, you got to put your own mask first, so that you're able to help others. And I live by that belief. And I really believe that this is how it is, especially with self-care. So the more I learn and grow, the more I can be valuable to others. So, and to myself.
Mm,
So it starts with us first, and then we spread that out to others. That's usually, at the end of the day, how even businesses grow, right? How humans can add more value and add skills and experience. So yeah,
yeah,
it's the same rule of life that I use for both.
excellent. Yeah, and it always amazes me when people simplify some of those messages and philosophies, and it all comes back to the human condition, doesn't it? It's not really complicated. On the one hand, it's pretty much common sense all around, but common sense isn't all that common, and implementation of that common sense is where people struggle, right?
Yeah, I become, I guess, through the journey, or I don't know whether it's my own experience, but I've always been someone that like to simplify things and process, systematize and process. That's just how my brain works. So, yeah, I mean, the most important things in life are very simple, but they're not easy, right? So we've all probably heard that before. And the bigger you, I guess, climb up the evolution stage of your personal growth journey and your business growth journey, you realize that it's all about simplifying at the highest level. It's no longer about adding, noise into the mix. So just looking at, my own journey and the things that I've seen also from my experience, I've always been a student of fundamentals, principles that always repeat, patterns that always repeat, things that are always, happening, and lessons that maybe I need to learn that keep repeating. And then once I learn them, I'm able to share them, because again, if it's repeating, there's a reason. Everything happens on purpose, right? So just stay aware, stay mindful, stay present, stay curious. Those are some things that I enjoy doing. And yeah, and then once I get the core of something, then I also could see it so much more clearly. And then I just share it, or I just apply it in my life, and it becomes like a value or a life principle that I go by.
Mm. Yeah, fantastic. So with that community, it sounds very much like you've worked very consciously to build that culture and that clear purpose-driven culture, and I imagine it's profitable. How do you take that kind of idea of building that purpose and profit combined driven culture? How do you bring that into the organizations you work with where perhaps that's not quite there?
Yeah, so speaking of fundamentals, I work under fundamentals. So when it comes to the clarity of purpose, most companies obviously have clarity on their vision and, then the mission of what they're after. Maybe sometimes they don't always have the right values aligned, or the values are just like a nice decor sitting somewhere in their spaces, whether it's hybrid or live. But it's not really things that are being embodied from the leaders and from the teams. So that's one piece, getting clarity on what we stand for as a company, what is the mission, what's the vision behind the work, and what are the values that people are living by. So once that's clear, then the other piece is really the operations piece. Now, how do we now connect the profit piece? So what are we doing with as far as the branding? I use 7 pillars to systematize the approach that I take with them. So we take a look at branding, marketing channels, sales cycles, systems, systematize a lot of things, SOPs. If something is taking long, shortcut the processes back to obviously what we're going for, and then get the right people going, hire, train, recruit, keep top talent, develop top talent, and then keep creating opportunities as the company scales to new markets or current markets with a bigger team and a different focus, or the same focus and just an extension of their scaling. And then at the core of all of that is your business model. It's like the elephant in the room. It's like that thing that kind of holds everything together. And we want to make sure that the business model is viable for growth. And we're also focusing on the right thing, because business model is all about the effect on your clients, right? What are the results you're able to provide? And then once we look at all of those different pieces, then we have pretty much a streamlined way that things are working. And then everybody understands what are the right priorities. And then the rest becomes about implementation and getting the right people on the job, so to speak, to be able to implement, test, learn, and keep growing.
Mm. So what I'm hearing is getting real clarity around the vision as a first step, and then um, working on the implementation. But I'm hearing a strong message about people throughout that, and also systems. You talked about
Right.
the,
Because at
the
the end of the
business
day,
model. Yeah.
a company, yeah, a company is just its own mechanism that's supposed to be independently living beyond even the founders, right? So looking at it detached emotionally, obviously it's easy for me to say because I'm not the founder of the company. I'm kind of
Yeah.
my own. That's how I get support with mine. But looking at it, just like a well-oiled independent entity, as it should be, it's all about adding value and ensuring that everything is working together seamlessly based on the stage of growth that a company might be in. So yeah, and new level, new devil. You got to focus on different priorities. But I mean, at the end of the day, entrepreneurs or companies only live because they solve a big problem, right? And the more you solve one problem, there's going to be a new problem that always shows up. So get used to being a problem solver. That's something that I've learned very early on in my experience as well. And yeah, as long as you understand that you're just trading the next problem for the next high quality problem, you're able to scale and evolve and embrace it with, an optimist mindset, whether you're the CEO or the founder or the leaders or even the team, the teams that are placed in different departments or that have different roles and functions.
Mm. Yeah, I'm fascinated by that idea of once you solve one problem, move on to the next problem and solve a greater problem, and that quest for growth. One of the things that raises in my mind is how do you balance that ambition with contentment? Because I find with a lot of entrepreneurs, they kind of achieve a certain level of success. They've set a goal, they've achieved that goal, and then they immediately move on to the next goal because they're so growth oriented. They don't take time to celebrate. They don't take time to reflect. So how do you personally balance that drive for continuous growth and ambition with the need for kind of contentment and enjoyment of the present moment?
Yeah, I love your question because this has been a challenge for me. Obviously, I think for most people that are ambitious, it's a challenge because your brain is just almost trained to always think of like the next thing to be able to solve. So I just increasing my awareness around it, celebrating the moments, taking time to be grateful, have practices in my life, whether it's meditation, exercise, gratitude journals, things like that. People around me that are, always like keeping me grounded and kind of, I guess pointing out things when I'm, trying to be the overachiever again and trying to get the next thing. So yeah, I think those are some things that I've learned along my journey to be able to just sit back and kind of enjoy the moment and affirm myself for the success or the things that I've been able to do, but also strive to be more in the being, more in the reflective and in the meditation and all of these states that for the longest time I just couldn't see how they were productive. But they're very productive because obviously that's where I get the most brilliant ideas and awareness and my next steps, which don't really come from the hustle and bustle of taking action. I think
Mm.
obviously it's a good balance between both, but I mean, the I guess wherever you are in the journey, the more you scale, the more you realize that being in the being is going to add more value to your company than you doing the doing, because hopefully now you have the right people and operations around you to do a lot of those repetitive functions that can be delegated. So it becomes more important to be within that level of awareness. But yeah, it's always a reminder. It's a reminder to be able to do it, just like any habit. It's something that you got
Yeah.
to feed and, and work on and be mindful. I'm not always perfect, but at least I try to stay aware because that was actually my story of how I grew very unfulfilled because on the outside I had achieved the success, but on the inside I had a lot of misalignment and inner conflict. So I realized that, wait a minute, I have to develop all these other habits which are more internally guided and inspired action that comes from within rather than a lot of the achievement that comes from the outside. So kind of just try to balance both so that I am self-validating and I'm not maybe trying to
Mm.
achieve for a outside reason. So that goes back to some of the inner work that I also talk about, which I think is really important.
Yeah, yeah. There's a whole podcast episode to talk about there. I'm thinking it's uh, wonderful that you've shared that. Um, being a bit vulnerable there and sharing that, yeah, we all have challenges and we all need to do that inner work. And I love the idea of taking a break, and whether it's meditation. I mean, I haven't really gotten into meditation as such, but I essentially do meditate, because when I go out for a walk on my own, or if I grab my camera and go out and do a photography walk, as I call them, on my own, or if I'm riding my bike on my own, essentially I'm meditating, because usually my mind's just freed up to enjoy the moment and be in the moment. And that's where I get a lot of my good ideas from.
Yeah, I think everyone has to find their own things that work for them. I think that's the other thing that I've learned, because, these are all tools and things that obviously are there, available, and we're aware that they exist. But you just still got to try your own thing. And in different phases of life, I find that different things work, because you just might be in a different state. So I think you also have to listen to your own gut and intuition. But another piece that I think also kept me very grounded is almost like setting an intention, like I do to work, setting an intention that I need to clear space for whatever comes up. And that has helped me, because in my brain, I'm able to separate that I already set this intention now to go for a walk, or to meditate, or to do whatever I want, or to draw, or to do other hobbies that I enjoy. So that has helped me kind of get some separation, so to speak, from when I have intentionally decided ahead of time that this is the time that I focus on that, and this is the time that I focus on this.
Hmm.
And that separation has also worked for me. So that's also something that, hopefully could resonate with someone listening. But yeah, I think you have to find your own method and tool that works for you. And just like anything, the more we practice it, the more it becomes second
Yeah.
nature, and then we no longer have to be so intentional about it, which is a good thing. Unless we
Yes. Yes.
slip up and life happens and we have a new challenge coming our way. Usually that's when I find I need to rebalance myself again.
Yeah, that's right. You sort of get stuck in the mud again. All right. Now, I am aware that you have another appointment that you need to get to. So I think it's a good point on that note to move on to the buzz, which is our innovation round. It's the same 5 questions we ask of every guest. And the idea is you'll give us some really insightful and snappy answers that'll inspire the listener to go and take some action today as a result. All
Okay.
set? Okay, what's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Create white space so they can process information and allow for creative ideas to come on to you.
Hmm. So it's what we've just been talking about essentially, isn't it? So create some white space. I like that white space metaphor. All right, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Um, for me is intentionally using meditation to go in and maybe be intentional about certain things that I'm trying to get clarity around. So once I set a new intention, then I want to allow whatever comes up and try to be attentive around listening for clues of dots that are being connected, so that I'm able to understand the next step and not to rush the process. If it doesn't come to you, it's okay. It will come at its own timing. So also be more in the flow and allow all of that to also flow, and not to be able to pressure myself to be able to
Hmm.
get the next answer that I'm seeking.
Yeah. I've found that the harder you push sometimes with those things, the more resistance you encounter. So it's often better to take a break, make that white space if you like, and then come back to it later. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite tool or resource you use most often?
It depends for what, but I would say my journal for my reflective time, since we're speaking about work-life harmony, so to speak. But yeah, my journal is my good friend. I sometimes work things out on there, process information of things that are get out of my head, and I get into paper, and then get clarity around just like that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's it's something I have kind of a love-hate relationship with. I sometimes do it, and I have these lovely um, collection of Lamy fountain pens that I've had for probably 30 years that I love writing with, and I enjoy, and I have different colors, so I kind of have fun with journaling and doodling and making diagrams. But then I just don't do it, and it's one of those things where it's I just don't make time for it. I just never get to it. And at the end of the day, I haven't written anything down. I've sort of been working really hard and I've been on the computer, but I haven't written anything down. So it's kind of something that I probably need to take your advice and just keep practicing and build a habit around it.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, I think at different phases and stages, we're seeking different things, and as long as we these things are familiar, I find that we tend to go to things that are familiar and have helped us at a first certain phase and stage. So, yeah, maybe this would be a good reminder.
All right. So in your experience, what's the best way to keep a client on track?
Keep them focused on the right priorities and connected to their purpose.
Yeah, I thought you might say that. It's pretty much the philosophy that you work by. All right, a
Yeah,
final question of the. Sorry, I missed your comment.
I said I live and I work by because I can't tell the difference. When you're within working under the sphere of your purpose, you can't tell the difference. It's just like
Hmm.
one big fun fest. There's no life and work. Um, and yeah, so
Wonderful. All right, and final question of the buzz round. What's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
be authentic, speak from the heart. Don't be afraid to state, your how you think about things. Tell the truth. I think those are all very helpful things to. First of all, you feel very good to be able to stay true to yourself, but then that's going to be infectious because there's only one of you. There's only one way that you perceive I mean, we can perceive the world differently in different situations, but just like I connected my own dots in my experience, everybody has done the same because we all have different journeys in life. And yeah, I think those are the best practices that I've been able to live by as well and work by.
Hmm. Yeah, that's such good advice, and it really comes back to doing a little bit of that inner work and having the self-awareness of how do I operate, what's unique about me, how do I connect the dots between the experiences that I've had and the things that I've seen, and how can that add value to others?
Yeah, absolutely. And we all have the capacity to do so, which is why I think exploratory discovery work with ourselves, know thyself, that saying that we probably hear is really important because when you do know yourself, then you also can um, connect those things for yourself and have clear articulation and show up, authentically and all of that and be within that light that we all have individually. So yeah, I think those
Hmm.
are some things that I also believe.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Well, thanks for what you've shared with us today, Elona. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Now, where can people find out more about you, the work you do, listen in on your podcast? And I know you've got a number of books as well. Where can people access all that information and maybe even get in touch to say thanks for what you've shared today?
Well, I want to thank you for creating such spaces. I love the any space that's being created for people to just have a heart-to-heart conversation, and whatever comes up will come up. It's as long as we stand within our truth and we share our experience from the heart. People can find a lot of free resources and pretty much a little hub of the work that I do at my website, elonaloparicoaching.com. They also have free resources on there if they like to go check out some stuff that might help them with scaling their companies and align that purpose and profit.
Okay, well, I'm having a little bit of a problem with the audio here. I'm hopeful that it will still be recorded, but I'm guessing that you've given us some links there. I was trying to lip read. I will include any links that you've given us in the show notes so people can click straight through for that. So finally, as we wrap it up, Elona, what action would you like our listener to take out of today's conversation?
An action that they could take is to not be afraid to grow and evolve. And if something is, pulling them, or if they feel pulled or compelled by a certain message or something that they need to do, it's usually something that's already sitting inside of them. So don't be afraid to explore, take risks, try new things, align yourself with the right people. Because if it's inside, it needs to be realized. That's like one of the sayings that have come from my experience as well. I think that would be a last final message I would like to leave you on.
Wonderful. That's a wonderful call to action. And I thank you, Elona, for joining us today on the Innova.buzz podcast. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I wish you all the best for the future and please do stay in touch.